Hi, my name is Trevor Dean, and this is my claim of fact speech. So we are not alone in this universe. You, me, there's other of us out there not exploring, but in the vast universe. We share it with other biological life forms, and before you think I'm crazy, no, not the ones with flying saucers and ray guns. So when you look up into this night stars, what do you see? Do you see a vast expanding universe, nothing, darkness? Me, I see life. Life elsewhere and off this planet. But confirming life isn't as easy as what you think. Just getting in an aircraft and just going to the next planet over would be easy and with searching there. But because of vast distances, we can't just travel there and back very fast. So we have to calculate it and bring in all the knowledge that we know of our universe, its size, and then we have to use our discoveries of many exoplanets that are lifelike and Earth-like that can sustain life, but also the search for biological life forms would start on the last place you would think it would start, here, with life on Earth. So we wouldn't be able to do it without many astronomers, astrophysicists, and cosmologists, etc. before us, that we've used their data of before we thought the Earth was the center of the universe, then the sun revolved around us. But now we have a set solar system that allowed us to reach out and discover more of our Milky Way galaxy, other galaxies. So Biologist is a website, and it helped me kind of figure out what was the dating of the Earth and the universe. So the Earth dates back to about 4.5 billion years, and the universe is to about 13.7 billion years old, or dates back to about 13.7 billion years. And so roughly for 9 million years, or for 9 billion years, the universe was being created. Many galaxies out there. There's roughly about 200 billion galaxies with almost 200 billion stars or more. So with this 13.7 billion years, we're able to create a timeline, and then roughly 1.5 billion years after the Earth was formed, the first single-celled organism was discovered. Was dated back to about 1.5 billion years after the formation of Earth. And then through that, we've had mass extinctions that these many biological life forms have survived, and they've adapted and continued thriving. Another thing is due largely to author and neurologist Jerry Crawford, due largely to the advent of computers and rocket science in the last years of the 20th century. Scientists have been making advances of amazing discoveries, completely revolutionizing the biological sciences as well as the geological and space sciences. This technology allows us to explore more and to be able to see more into the vast expanding universe, and also find habitable planets. NASA was able to, with the Kepler telescope, we've been able to find many habitable planets within the habitable zone, which is roughly in the perfect spot, not too far from the sun, but not too close, and then also has forms of water. And we're unable to calculate these, like a set formation date for these discovered exoplanets, so we can't really date back to when they were formed. But if they were formed over 2 billion years ago, then there's a higher probability of the formation of life and allowing it to form and evolve as we did in the roughly 3 billion years ago. And so the older the planet is, the more likely and the higher probability of life there will be there. So overall, when looking at the universe and space exploration and exoplanets, we can kind of bring it all back to one thought, and that's here on Earth. We have Lisa Kaltinger states, on Earth, water is the key to life. It abounds our planet, and every animal, every planet, every life form depends on it for survival. The seas are where life is born. And then as you can see in the deep sea, we have like thermal vents that pump out sulfur, which would be toxic for something like you and me, but these deep sea bacteria and life forms have evolved to adapt and survive in these conditions, as so would say creatures and life forms on other oceans found on other moons of local planets or exoplanets. Overall, life life will be found off our own planet, but I will not. Now I don't know if I will be alive or if it will be found, but life is out there in our universe. Do I stay up here?
No, you can sit down. Otherwise, it feels like I'm targeting you with the comments, and I don't want you to feel like you're a sitting duck. All right, Trevor, the proposition is in the opening of your speech, but it's not very clearly highlighted because there are 2 or 3 sentences that basically are saying the same thing. I could pick it out because I've got it right here on your notes, but I think you want to make sure that you signpost it for everybody. Speaking of signposting, there's not really an organizational structure for the information that you're presenting. It's mostly dependent on a few pieces of information that you've got in the argument. And so I think that you need to make your secondary claims much more distinct and provide a structure. This sounds like you are thinking out loud as opposed to building an argument, and the argument needs to develop in a organized manner in order to work effectively for an audience so that they can see how all of the points that you're talking about connect to one another. And then at the end, I think you can maybe summarize a little bit more the way you're doing during the presentation. You do generally give good explanations for the concepts that you're talking about. They're relatively simple, which is appropriate for the audience in this circumstance. You're not giving us, I mean, there is some information that you present that I think we could use a little bit more detail on. The biological history of the Earth does take up a big chunk of time. But there's one place where you suggest that there is a range of planets that you call them exoplanets. You need to explain what that term comes from, and you need to give us some sense of numbers or proportions so that we can maybe make an estimate about. I know that that's part of what you're saying is that we don't have actual numbers, but you did say that people have identified some of these planets being within this range, and you also gave a conditional statement. This is if they have water. Well, what evidence is there that they have water? I think that's the kind of thing that would make your argument a lot clearer as well. Hang on a second, just take a seat. You do have sources for some of your authority that you're citing, which I appreciated. I thought that there's good generic information about some of these points. I'm not sure that it does anything more than tell us what the conditions would need to be without necessarily showing us that those conditions exist. And I think that needs to be a little bit more convincing. I did appreciate at the beginning that you tried to diminish the rebuttal argument about flying saucers and all that sort of thing, that's not really what you're talking about. You're not talking about Independence Day happening this week. You're mostly talking about the idea that biological life could develop in a parallel place in the universe, similar to Earth, where they have the right range of temperature, the right distance from the planet, and the presence of water. What I need to have is some information that there are planets that have the combination of things that you're talking about there, and I didn't really see that. I mean, I heard speculation about the water. I heard a generic piece of information about planets being in that particular range, but Other than that, I think it needs to be developed a little bit more. You do a nice job presenting to the audience for the most part. I think you've got a natural style delivery. I just think that the contents needs to be organized a lot more. All right, thank you.
Thank you.